If you're a fellow historian or survival-minded viewer, stay with me for the next minute, because what I'm about to tell you changes the way you look at every tool, weapon and metal relic from World War II. And before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss our deep dive survival history guides. Here's the hook. Millions of World War II-era steel tools, blades, canteens, ammo boxes and even battlefield structures sat through rain, mud, transport, combat and decades of abandonment. Yet many survive today with only surface patina. Meanwhile, modern steel, your garden tools, your machete, your vehicle frame, can start rusting in under 5 years, some in 1 season. So what did they know in the 1930s and 40s that manufacturers now overlook? And what can you, as a modern survival-minded historian, use from their methods to get decades out of your own gear? The wartime steel recipe was built for endurance, not beauty. World War II steel wasn't designed for showroom shine. It was engineered for abuse. Before mass consumer marketing dominated manufacturing, steel was produced with durability as the first and only priority. Much of the steel used during the war had higher carbon content and tighter grain structure because it was made in slower, more controlled smelting environments. It created a denser steel that resisted cracking and corrosion more effectively. Modern steel is often alloyed for flexibility, low cost, or specific machining advantages, which can mean less pure iron and more additives that react faster to moisture or salt. This is why a 1940s entrenching tool can sit in a barn for 70 years and show only mild darkening, while a modern big-box store shovel can show red rust after a single rainy season. If you want to apply this, start by choosing high-carbon or tool steel versions of the tools you depend on. When you're buying survival or homestead gear today, the label 1045, 1075, 1095, 01 or A2 tool steel is far closer to World War II durability than typical cheap stainless or low-carbon varieties. These steels behave more like wartime alloys and can withstand long-term exposure if you maintain them correctly. Factories during the war didn't have the luxury of cutting corners. Cutting corners cost lives on the battlefield. This meant slower forging, more thorough heat treating, and more consistent tempering. Every spade, bayonet and rifle part had to meet strict military specifications. You know, when you heat treat steel carefully, you actually lock its structure into a more stable, corrosion-resistant form. These days, many products rely on mass-production heat-treat cycles, and honestly, the consistency can vary quite a bit from batch to batch. Even a slightly uneven quench or temper, well, that produces steel that rusts faster. When you want your own gear to last, you should look for forged, not stamped, tools. Forged implements, they really do replicate that World War II production quality. If you're maintaining a blade or an axe, it's worth learning how to perform a simple home tempering cycle. Just heat the metal evenly to a straw yellow colour and allow it to cool slowly. This process stabilizes the steel and honestly adds years of life. It's not just cosmetic, it's structural preservation, plain and simple. The military didn't coat steel for looks. They coated it for survival in mud, brine, sweat and, well, blood. This included parkerizing, bluing, phosphate treatments, heavy oiling and even cosmoline sealing. These processes chemically bonded protective layers to the steel, making it far harder for oxygen and moisture to penetrate. A parkerized rifle receiver from 1944 can look nearly untouched today because that matte grey finish chemically passivated the steel underneath. If you're preserving tools or weapons today, you should apply the same philosophy. Modern equivalents include manganese phosphate coatings, cold bluing solutions, or even a consistent regimen of boiled linseed oil, mineral oil, or gun grease. For equipment you plan to store long-term, you'll want to wipe it clean, coat it with a thin layer of grease, wrap it in wax paper-style barriers, and store it in a dry environment, just as quartermasters did. Soldiers were required to maintain their metal gear daily. Rust wasn't viewed as a minor inconvenience, it was a threat to survival. Weapons were wiped down after every patrol. Tools were dried, oiled and inspected. Naval equipment was rinsed to remove salt. Vehicles were checked at the end of every run. Even when supplies were limited, maintenance discipline was non-negotiable. In your own life, one of the simplest ways to extend steel lifespan is to adopt that same routine. After using any metal tool, wipe it dry. Once a week, apply a light protective oil. At the end of every season, clean it thoroughly and store it to avoid moisture contact. If you live in a humid region, silica gel packs, beeswax coatings, or regular touch-ups with oil are practical steps that genuinely add decades to your equipment. Fighting across deserts, jungles, Arctic regions and saltwater theatres force military engineers to design steel that could handle extremes. They tested gear against tropical humidity, desert sand, abrasion and winter condensation cycles. These days, many consumer products are tested only for cost efficiency, not extreme resilience. If you want to follow this mindset, study your environment. If you're in humid climates, prioritize high-carbon tools with heavy oiling cycles. If you're in coastal regions, rely on phosphate coatings and wax-based sealants. If you're in arid regions, watch for dust abrasion, removing coatings. Treat your tools according to the battlefield conditions that most resemble your local climate. There's a difference between patina and active rust. World War II steel often formed a dark, stable oxide layer that actually protected the metal underneath. This layer was encouraged by the carbon content, phosphate coatings and regular handling. Modern cheap steel often flakes instead of stabilizing, leading to deep pitting. One way to apply this today is to preserve the patina on your tools instead of polishing them shiny. A stable patina is your friend. After removing active rust, allow the steel to darken naturally, then seal it with oil. That darkened surface actually blocks moisture more effectively than bare polished steel. Durability used to be the expectation, not the bonus. Tools were made to be repairable. Handles could be replaced, edges resharpened, coatings reapplied. Today, many products are designed for disposability. But adopting a World War II mindset, expecting gear to last decades, changes how you buy, use and maintain steel tools. Look for equipment that can be repaired. Learn to sharpen, rehandle, recoat and preserve metal. These skills were standard for wartime families, and honestly, they remain some of the most practical survival skills you can acquire today. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more survival history deep dives, make sure you subscribe, share this guide, and help our community of serious history enthusiasts grow.